Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review of Empyre Issue 6. And I enjoyed this conclusion to Empyre. I wasn't quite sure where they were going to be going with this, but I liked the potential setup that we've got at the end of this event, even though we didn't get any real seismic kind of deaths. Now, granted, because throughout this issue we see some different kind of changes that go on, so we'll have to see how those fall out. So we start off and we see that Reed and Tony are pretty much going over their problems. It's like, alright, we're here. One of us has to go take care of the Death Blossom, one of us has to take care of the sun. So Reed, of course, is going to be going after the Death Blossom in Wakanda, and Tony is going to take care of the sun. And of course Reed's like, you've been acting a little bit funny because of everything. And he's like, well, usually I follow my own kind of pattern of like arrogance and being blinded and shit and getting real, and karma coming and put me back in the cave to try and fix something. This is my cave, these are my scraps, let me do this, I got this. He's like, well, you got a hint or something? He's like, I'm gonna put a suit around the sun. It's like, okay, let's see how this goes, as he's holding one of the Fantastic Four suits. So I liked that set off that we got towards this conclusion, because it really fits into Tony and coming back to like his core kind of thing of, yes, he is a billionaire playboy philanthropist and he does all these kind of tinkerings and everything, but it's that kind of mentality when you put him up against a wall and put him into a situation that really is like a no-win scenario is when he does his best work. Even though to the outside people are like, there's no way he can figure this out. That's when he's usually in his most focused and able to do his best kind of work. So I'm like, that really does get to the heart of Tony Stark. And I really like that they were able to emphasize that. So, we get one more kind of crazy ass thing going on as we see that Franklin and Val are dealing with this whole thing with the Dark Harvest. It's like, what the hell's going on here? And we see that they have an Omniwave projector, and they somehow got a hold of. Well, they had, of course, the Kree kid, but they also got a hold of the Skrull kid. That, of course, happens in the Fantastic Four issue tie-in, so that gets more explained later on. But I'm like, okay, that definitely adds something pretty screwed up, because they're using it to essentially send a hate wave throughout the cosmos to reignite the Kree and Skrull civil war. And it kind of works, because then we see the Kree and the Skrull forces fighting each other, and I'm like, that's not good, especially with what's going on. We see that then affects what's going on at the command ship, as we see Captain Glory owns up to, yeah, I helped out this fakeling person. Carol's like, the hell? Did you get that? And of course her weapon is able to record that, so when they've got that going on, she's kind of feeling a little bit screwbally as well because of her Kree blood. And we see that Hulkling is not as affected because he's got the inhibitor mask. And I was like, yeah, let's kind of figure out what's going on here first. And they're like, alright, Johnny, can you mess with pretty much all flames? Like, yeah, pretty much. So, like, why don't you and Captain Marvel go to the sun and try and balance out that shit? And Wiccan's like, yeah, let's kind of all go there. And Hulkling's like, I kind of have to deal with the shit here, hun, so go do you. Of course, they are able to then teleport themselves to the sun. Johnny's kind of freaking out because he's like, I don't know if I'm able to do this, and I wish my family were here. And the cool thing is, Carol and Billy are able to be like, hey, your family is here. You're once an Avenger, always an Avenger. The Avengers is just another giant extended family of the Fantastic Four. It's like, yeah, we're here for you. You're never alone. We got this. And they end by saying Avengers Assemble, and it's like, that's really cool. I like that, as they're dealing with all that shit. So then we get to a portion where we get a back and forth between what's going on with Ben, Sue, Mantis, and She-Hulk, and what's going on with Franklin, Val, and the Kree and Skrull Kid. That actually sounds like a pretty interesting kind of just like comic name, the Kree and Skrull Kid. So it's kind of a little bit trying to a balancing act, as we see that Sue is trying to do some shit and kind of like mess around with like plant controlled She-Hulk, but she is kind of limiting herself, so she wants to team up with Mantis to have Mantis kind of shut down her like pain and fatigue thing, so that way she can go balls to the wall and fucking take this shit out as need be. While that's going on, we see that Val has decided to talk to the kids to remember the arena, and Spidey's like, that does not sound like a good idea. So let her do her thing. And she starts bringing up how, like, remember how you were forced to fight and everything, and there's only one kind of constant, the other person going through the exact same thing you were. Of course, Franklin then picks up on this and is then kind of going through and figuring out, okay, yeah, you gotta hold on to that and be like, okay, you don't want to feel this, they don't want to feel this. You gotta bring together this unity and this family kind of thing. Like, and I like that theme of like unity and family versus that kind of divisiveness that Koi is doing with the Kotati and being like, end it all, war kind of stuff. So we see that Sue is able to kind of completely whammy She-Hulk, and they pretty much got the time to like take her out. And Ben's just like, I don't quit on family. I'm not gonna do this to Jen. And of course, she's like, screw this plant controlled She-Hulk. Like, screw this noise. I'm gonna unlock all the gamma power. And she's like, oh, what's this door kind of thing? And then of course, that snaps and breaks around the same time that Franklin and Val are able to get the positive kind of emotions from the kids, and instead of having it be a hate beam, it becomes a kind of unity kind of thing. Be like, hey, there we go. We see that the Kree and the Skrull stop and actually get back to working together, and Jen has broken free as the Hulk and is back and ready to fight. Now this, at first glance, would seem like a crappy way to kind of undo She-Hulk's death in this event, and I can understand that kind of reaction. But that lines up more with what is going on in the Immortal Hulk, with how Bruce Banner has kind of shifted with his powers and everything, and how if he dies, the Hulk will come out at night, and it's dealing with that whole kind of gamma door and other kind of things. So Jen died, but she's back now, kind of similar and ready to do Hulk kind of things. So there will be repercussions for this, and we will see definite kind of changes with She-Hulk, since they are doing the Immortal She-Hulk as their own kind of thing. So, alright, well, let's see how that goes. We then shift back towards the command ship, and we see that Captain Glory is like, yeah, screw you, lady. I did this because I wanted the war back, but screw that noise. I'm like, there you go. Hulkling then tells Mergen to teleport Glory and the Super Skrull to go help Billy and them control the sun, and that's where that goes while he's going to talk with his grandma. It's kind of weird but funny. We then see that Koi and Swordsman are like, yeah, we kind of needed to get this Death Blossom to kind of like grow faster, but then of course Black Panther pops up and like, yeah, I'm dead, bitch. I'm like, yeah. And I like how they are able to comment that he's like, yeah, I'm King of the Dead. I've got my own form of shadow combat, and so I'd stop my heart and the bleeding until my ceremonial armor could like heal that shit. I'm like, it's good planning. That's why you gotta be really careful when you're dealing with a Black Panther, man. He knows shit. And of course, Koi is trying to use his powers to kind of like mess around with the vegetation, but it's not working right. And then we see, of course, Reed pops up, and evidently this suit has bioacoustics that will interfere with that, while he's still able to do his stretchy powers. And I'm like, that is really kind of cool. And Tony really needs to get on doing like Avenger-themed armor for kind of characters that like work with their powers like that, because that's just fucking kick-ass. Reed better have that at some point. Now, granted, this is probably custom built to deal with like the bioacoustics things and dealing with the Kotati and that kind of stuff, but that's just really fucking cool. Let's see here then. And of course, he's like, what sound are you going to use to take back your world? And then Reed, of course, says, Avengers Assemble, as we see Cap leading the forces of the Skrull and the Kree and Earth. And the Avengers are like, dude, I'm going to ask you to cease and desist what you're doing right now, or you're going to face the consequences. And he's like, don't make me say it again. Not with the day I've had. I'm like, yeah, Cap, let's get this on. Let's see. Would then shift back to Tony talking to himself while the stuff's going on with the sun, and he's pretty much explaining his plan. He's like, alright, what's going on is that the Pyre is injecting denser materials into the sun's core, pretty much getting it to the supernova kind of effect. And I really kind of like this because, granted, I don't know everything there is to know about what would be going on with a sun going supernova, but that's the kind of gist, and it's like broken down enough that it's not complete techno babble. It's kind of a little bit, but it's like, all right, cool. I'm glad they're able to do this. So it's like injecting heavier elements into there and messing with the whole process. And of course, we see that the other people are trying their best to contain it. But the thing is, Tony now has access to Reed's suit, which has unstable particles, so he's able to pretty much use it as a kind of weird ass nanite thing to go and put it into such a place to stop the denser elements from going into the core, so that way it gets back to a usual kind of stable kind of place. And like, okay, that's pretty sweet, as we see them pretty much trying to control everything. It's, hey, this is working out pretty right. Let's see. So that pretty much resolves that situation. Pyre, yay! Of course, that would derail Hulkling's grandma's plans, and we get back to the command ship. She's like, "What the hell? How's the Pyre done and everything?" And he's like, "Yeah, my people were doing everything. So what do you want?" Of course, she's pissed off. All of her plans have pretty much gone to ruin, and she attacks Hulkling and berating him for his weakness and everything. She'd done all these things. She had gone through being undercover for so long and everything. And of course, this when she attacked him, she knocked off the inhibitor mask. He's like, "No, it's not weakness, it's kindness," as he shoves the inhibitor mask onto her. And he's like, "Oh, you could have won if you hadn't lashed out." And then we see Hulkling talking and ruminating about certain things, that like leadership is not cruelty, and it's not committing crimes on your own people to show your own strength. Strength is shown by working to lift people up and make them better as we see the battle raging on and fighting as long as it can. Then we get to the part that is kind of going to be beyond the whole thing with She-Hulk. This really just comes out of nowhere because we had not really heard much what was going on with Thor, and of course his mini that was tied into this event was canceled, so it really makes this go into more Deus Ex Machina kind of territory, because he's like, "Yeah, our wizards control the vegetation. What you got?" And of course, Thor shows up and they're like, "Screw your noise. You came here at a revenge, being like a conqueror and a colonizer. I'm a child of this world. I'm Thor, Gaia's son, and she doesn't like you pretty much using all this to take life. So I say thee nay." And pretty much uses like this green lightning kind of thing, and using the power of the earth to kind of take away their control of the vegetation, pretty much ending the conflict. Now, I don't think this was to originally be pretty much brought up as a Deus Ex Machina at this point, but since the mini was canceled and that was the original plan, I do emphasize with the point that they could not have put more in this to explain Thor suddenly coming out of bumfuck nowhere and be like, "Hoo-ha!" and doing that. So I give him a little bit more leeway on this, when normally I'd be like, that kind of came out of nowhere and I kind of wanted a little bit more of an explanation. There was supposed to be, and we just were unable to get it. So I'm being like, alright, I don't like it that much, but it's acceptable. Alright, let's see here. Then the last portion deals with pretty much Black Panther beating the shit out of Swordsman. And this is pretty good, as we see a lot of stuff going on as they're like dodging around. He's ruminating on the fact of like his motivations. Are you to end humanity, to end yourself? What the hell's going on with you, man? Of course, Swordsman's getting his ass handed to him, so he gets to the point of holding Koi hostage and being like, "I'll kill the kid." And Black Panther's even like, "That's kind of a bold move there, Cotton. This dude's like killed Wakandans and shit, and has like Wakandan blood on his hands. Why would you think I wouldn't like take you both out?" Granted, he does make an interesting point there, where Swordsman's like, "Oh, it's your animal sentimentality and stuff like that." They go, "Todd, you're kind of pissed." It's like, "The Messiah, you're fucking doing this. What the fuck's up with you, man?" Of course, since he has then seen this, Black Panther's like, You're not Swordsman, man. All I see is the plant now. and that swordsman died as an Avenger, and I'm just killing you and destroying you, and uses the sword and stabs him through without killing Koi and taking out the Death Blossom as well. That was pretty cool. I really liked the artwork for that. It was just really awesome and effective in seeing the... Then we pretty much get to the falling action, pretty much wrapping things up. We learned that there's that Death Blossom on the moon. What are we going to do about that? Evidently the X-Men took care of that. And I like that we have that little kind of... where they're able to be like, hey, this is what happened in that thing. I wish that could have helped a little bit too with Thor. Like, this would have been fully explained in this Thor mini, but that was canceled, so... Mantis tries to reason with Koi, but he says that humanity has affected him and her, and that was what I really did wrong. The Earth's skies are cleaner, things are not on fire, even though there are some things that are on fire because they blew some shit up. Granted, uncontrolled wildfires, he might have a point if he worded it like that. Says, was he wrong? He was like, no. I'm like, he's just. And she's like, you're just a child. He's like, hey, I am what you made me, a messiah. Of course, the rest of the people are like, this is kind of freaking me out. Tony's like, yeah, that looks like the future of the galaxy there. That ain't good. She's like, well, the Katati are peacefully surrendering, and this Kree and the Skrulls are accepting that surrender, so I think it's kind of going to work out there. I'm like, that kind of works out to how both characters usually see certain things. We also see that Sue and Reed talk about it as like, this is like seismic galactic shifts with the Kree and the Skrull united like this. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty big politics there. Game of Thrones kind of stuff. I mean, like, Earth, the epicenter, it's going to be a kind of new space age, so it'll be interesting to see how that kind of works out with what's going on. I'm wondering if Koi is the future, but Black Panther's like, there's others that hold the future in their hands as well. And I've got faith in them as he sends the sword back to Hulkling, saying, long live the king, as we see Hulkling with Billy and the rest of the new kind of important people within the Korean Skrull Alliance. We got like Captain Marvel and Captain Glory and the rest of Hulkling's retinue of like Super Skrull and Mergen. And we see Johnny there as well. And I really like the end splash page as we see Hulkling lifting up the sword like that. I'm like, yeah, I'm really interested to see how Hulkling is able to kind of deal with this stuff, and seeing Hulkling and Billy deal with like the Galactic World stage and trying to make sure that people don't be dicks and do shit like this. So overall, I enjoyed this event. It had a good kind of balance. Now, granted, it wasn't crazy with all these different kind of deaths, but I do think that this will have interesting consequences both in the galactic realm and on Earth, and how everything's kind of changing out. We'll see definitely changes with like She-Hulk. We'll see the Fantastic Four kind of having to deal with all this different kind of stuff, especially with like the Kree and the Skrull and all that, and just seeing what will happen next with Koi and everything going on with that. So I enjoyed this. I can't wait to see what kind of fallouts and everything will happen, and where it'll kind of lead off to any other kind of events. So those are my opinions on the issue. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.